What's up, everybody, and welcome to the back office here at Webster. And I have our training manager, who most of you probably have already laid your eyes on at some point over the last 4 years. I got Pete DiLorenzo in the building, baby.
What's going on? Good to be here. Excited for this. Let's do it.
Yeah. So we were talking behind the scenes after, 3 pretty hardcore camps this morning. Thanks for the push, by the way, my guy.
Anytime.
And, this man has been a leader in Burn Nation since he really came in the doors. And, I see so much of myself and Pete that, we really wanted to open this up by talking about our background, because it ain't all sunshine and rainbows out there, as most of you know. And, and a lot of you come to Burn as an escape from something at home. And a lot of us have great home lives and a lot of us don't. And Pete and I happen to be on the side that didn't growing up. And so I really, Pete, want to dive into your story and then how that has really fueled your desire to be a leader of people. Because guys and gals that come from places like us usually don't make it to where we've made it. And I want to have a conversation around how to rise up during the tough times in your life. And so I'll most people here probably know my story, but I'll kick in a little bit too, just to add some color. But I really wanted to start with you and say, take me through, the setback. What was the setback that put you in a position to be where you're at now? How is that home life tough for you? And then maybe tell me a story or two about, specifically how you had some trials and tribulations as you're trying to navigate life as a young man.
Yeah, so growing up, I'm from, being from Long Island, New York, and my hometown is Hicksville. And
how close is that to Garden City?
It is very close. I'm very excited to go to the Garden City location.
Okay, we're coming soon.
I've been
Garden
texting
City.
Ryan. I've been texting Ryan, calling Ryan, chatting with him, and he's got a great thing coming on there, and I'm excited so I can actually go home and have a workout and go somewhere where there's a burn.
Yep.
I'm very excited for Garden City to open. But growing up wasn't always easy. I did grow up with both my parents. It was great. Had my younger brother. Lived in a great household. Except my growing up, my dad was an alcoholic, and through his struggle, I saw my mom struggle very hard, and my mom was the rock of the family. She held everything together. She's a big reason on why I am the leader that I feel that I am, whether it's in the gym or on the soccer field, or anywhere that I go, where I could be a leader and present in that position, because she showed me through the failures of him that it was okay to sometimes fail, and that no matter what, at the end, if you can control your outcome, everything is going to be okay. And she, helped me and my brother become great young men. And my dad was always involved in our lives. There were times where he messed up big time. And obviously not obviously, but he's no longer with us. He passed from cancer, 2 years ago. And I never forgave him for anything that he did. And that is something that sits with me every day, because the only time I forgave him was the second I watched him take his last breath. And when he was sick, he would ask me, why don't you forgive me? Or even growing up, like after he messed up, why don't you forgive me? I just couldn't watch somebody. I love my dad to death. He was an amazing person. He was the hardest worker that I knew. He just had an addiction, and that addiction, hurt the family. But my parents love each other so much, and as hard as times were, they always found a way to make family the most important, no matter what happened. But when he got sick and then he passed, things started to really click. That I never forgave the man who, although messed up so many times, gave me also everything that I wanted to. And that was very hard for me it is still very hard for me to comprehend, because I miss my dad, And that man would drive 7 hours up to Brockport from Long Island to go watch me play in a soccer game at 7 o'clock at night, one of my college games, and drive back the same night. and he was more involved in my life as I got a little bit older. But he was always just a hardworking man, and they always say don't become your job. And he was a correction officer at Rikers Island, and he's not dealing with the best of people there. The people that are around him were obviously not great, but that's what he did. And again, I can't thank him enough for everything he gave me, but I just wish things would have been different.
Yeah, I really resonate with that, Pete. Just, it's so hard to have a father who under inebriation does awful things, but then when they're sober the next day, they're a great human being.
They love you.
They love you, and they love the world. Like, my dad was a hard worker too. I mean, this guy worked to his knuckles to support the family, and he became his job as well. And the one thing that I always was confused about as a kid was like, how come last night that all went down? You got in a fight with mom, and I tried to break it up, and I got hit, and then the cops came over, and then the next day, when my mom decides not to press charges on you, the next day it's like all good, and that was very hard for me to understand. Like, how could you go from fist fighting me last night to like waking up in the morning and like kissing me on the cheek and telling me how much that you love me and acting like nothing happened the night before? It gave me this extremely confused mindset as a young kid, and what I just did was flee. I just left. I didn't know how to. That was the only way I knew how to handle it, was just to leave. And so I got this reputation of like being a runaway, because all I was trying to do is just figure out why this man who I looked up to, like, that's so crazy, isn't it? How you look up to someone, he's your hero, and despite all the things they do that are harmful to you, they're still your hero. Like, they're still the person that, you want to be like them in some way, shape, or form. I always wanted to be like a baseball player like my dad was, and be an athlete like he was. And, he's still here with us, Pete, and I think the difference is that I've gotten a chance to call him, and I've gotten a chance, although it wasn't received very well, I got a chance to tell him everything that I believe, that I love you and I thank you for all of those times where it was awful, because, as you know, that's what made us men. It's what allows us to be leaders now today, is all the trials and tribulations. If it's all sunshine and rainbows and you don't go through any of that, we wouldn't have been men at 12, 13, 14 years old, as our friends were just growing up, kind of living the normal lives. And being an athlete, I'm sure it's hard too. You're a soccer player, you're traveling, you're going with your team, right? And then there's this kind of burden that's pulling you back. And I don't know about you, but I always had to wonder, like, how's he going to show up today?
Yeah, I didn't have to really worry, and I was thankful I didn't have to worry about that. I had a coach growing up, my coach, Jeff, who I'm still very close with. I was just in his son Tyler. We played together. I was just in his wedding not too long ago, and he was like my dad, right? He paid for me to go to Disney. He paid for me to go wherever. He helped me get through playing soccer, because not that we struggled financially, but my mom did everything we could, or she could, to make sure that me and my brother had everything. And a lot of that is because my dad's, he worked so hard that we had the income to be able to still do what we wanted, but still also had to pay off his debts that he created through drinking and gambling. And, there was nights that, we would wake up in the middle of the night and, dad would be home early, but why is dad home early?
Right.
Well, that's because dad was left work early and, decided to drink. And, it sucked to watch as a kid. It really did, because like you said, your dad's your hero. You want to be like your dad when you grow up. You want to do this, you want to do that like your dad. And his work ethic, pays off in me. Listen, it paid off for me on the soccer field. And the reasoning that I became the athlete I was because he pissed me off so much, was that I just wanted to be at the soccer field, right? In 11th grade, when I was depressed and no one really knew I was depressed, and I wanted to, I considered taking my own life. The soccer field saved me, and the game saved me. That's why it means so much to me, and that's why I never want to stop playing. But I wasn't depressed because, you know, I grew up with the alcohol. You know, it was just something that was going on in me that I just didn't want to be here anymore. It was a mixture of school, a mixture of home, you know, college was around the corner, not getting college offers, and I thought it was what it was, but I was just in a very dark place in 11th grade, and I was very thankful to have the team, the sport, and then, you know, Dad didn't really help. And, you know, the family aspect from like 12th grade on was like so much better for some reason.
When did you start feeling like you were under control?
The night that I wanted nothing to do with the world anymore, and I went to the soccer field, and all my worries went away. And I realized when both of my feet are on that field, I control my outcomes. And then I just took that. And
was that in college or was that in high school?
High school.
Yeah. Where'd you play college ball at again?
Brockport, right here in Rochester.
Brockport. Got it. Well, you know, it's like these tough times that people go. I appreciate you being vulnerable, by the way. I know it's hard to open up about. I know it's going to help a lot of people because they go through similar things and sometimes don't feel like they can open up either. And so you're giving people permission to do that as a leader. When do you think you became a leader, Pete?
I feel like I didn't really become a leader until probably like my sophomore, junior year of college. When I started, you know, freshman year I didn't really play that much. As like every freshman, like you don't really play unless you're like the standout stud. I mean, I thought I was, but you know.
we all get a piece of humble pie. And we're like little skinny little freshmen, and
175 pounds, 180 pounds, and then you're getting bounced off the ball by someone who's 195 pounds pure muscle. But my coach sat me down. I was like, listen, you're not going to play if you don't pack on the weight. We need you to become faster, stronger on the ball. And I worked as hard as I could. Sophomore year, the forward got hurt. I stepped on the field, scored a hat trick, and that was the only game that I never started again. And the second I scored in that preseason and the way the team reacted around me, I was a leader from there on out.
Right there.
And it didn't stop me. They wrote an article, the school wrote an article before I left. I went to go play afterwards in Brazil with the USA team right before the Olympics, and then went and played in Germany. And they took blurbs from different coaches that I worked with. I worked out in my off season with the gymnastics coach, worked on plyometrics, worked on stabilizing the body, worked on all different aspects of what gymnasts would use, and applied it just to the soccer sense. And I worked with a strength and conditioning coach, Ed Jakolski, who taught me a lot of even what I know today, because he's like, I would have to carry the kid out of the gym because he just wanted it so bad. But I think my sophomore year is when I really decided that, or saw myself as a leader. People respected who I was, not just like some kid. He was like, oh, that's Pete DiLorenzo.
So now that you fast forward into a few years later, was there anything significant the first question, is there anything significant that happened from like kind of that moment until a few years later after college when you find Burn? And the second part of that question is, when you got here, how did you expect to step in to be a leader right away, or was the business world different for you than the soccer world?
Business world is so different than the soccer world, but soccer was business for me.
Yeah.
I took it as a business. Like I wanted that to be my business. I wanted that to be my life. I wanted to step on the field every day and train and get paid to do what I loved most. But when I got the text message about Burn, I was like, and I was telling Shannon this story. Burn, I don't know what Burn is. I didn't know Burn before I got the text message. Hey, come try this out. Like, it's like a girls' gym, ain't it? Like, I can't go. It's like a girls' only thing, isn't it? And the person at the time, the ops manager at the time, was like, no. She was my manager back at another studio that we were working at. And I came and tried it. It was metabolic conditioning on my first day, and I was like, this is my soccer training I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm down. And then now, when Webster opened, they were looking for another trainer. I was like, I want this. Like, I was training in Pittsford. I was loving it. Thinking about being a trainer at Webster, and the second I stepped foot in the gym, it was changed. Soccer to Burn, and stepping on the floor and just being I wanted to be, the best leader in Rochester, and not just in between Bern, but like I want people to be like, hey, yeah, that's Pete DiLorenzo from Bern, and he knows how to, change people's lives.
Well, I've certainly seen you do. I mean, like, I have to tell everybody as we're on air, I've seen a lot of trainers, and I have the privilege of being a leader to a lot of trainers, and my God, dude, you're the man, dude. You're a dog out on that floor, and people respect you so much, and the members look up to you, and you bring that soccer work ethic, you bring that tough family life soccer professional athlete work ethic inside of the gym. And so you've obviously been given position, you've been not given, that's a bad way to say it. You've earned the position now to oversee 2 gyms and all of the trainers. What does it mean to you to be that leader of, now you're like the leader of a new team in a sense? Yeah. You're still playing soccer. Yeah, well, yes. At least last season we talked about you got a few injuries, and we'll see what the future holds for you. But now this is the season here that your life is in now, where you're leading these other trainers and you're helping them step into their own and really find themselves and who they are the same way that you had to. And so how does the tough times growing up and your ability to rise up, how does that correlate to you being not only a great leader on the soccer field, but now stepping into the real world and being a great leader here at Bern?
I think of this team as my team, and I'm the captain of this team. And if a team fails, it falls on the captain, because the captain didn't lead right. And Nicole was here a couple weeks ago when you were supposed to be here the first time.
Mm-hmm. And we can talk about that anytime you want to. All right, okay. I missed my flight and I couldn't get here. Now I'm here. Move on.
And then, I said, I felt like I had failed at one point. Things may not have been going like the way I thought they were going, but and I took that back on me. But what it means to me to lead this team is everything. They're like my family. I go to Chrissy's house on Sunday for Sunday sauce. We all go out to dinner. We all have, we all do things together, which is great. But the way that I just kind of take everything that I've learned and project it now to my team, sometimes it's harder because I'm used to tough love. I'm used to being able to tell a player, hey, get your ass up and keep working. I don't know, YouTube might, demonetize it now, but no. But I'm used to tough love and tough feedback, and learning new people is not easy, and learning how to talk to each individual and how you have to construct things and give criticism in so many different ways is very hard. But I think, I have a lot of help as well. I know a lot of training managers around the country, just to name a few, like Kira, Cody, all these people who do an amazing job. They're like my outreach. And, it's now running this training team is just like how I run my soccer team. They're my family. They're everything.
Is there any one particular story of any trainers that you have on your team that have really flourished under your leadership, that kind of came out of their shell and broke into being something really special?
Chrissy.
Okay. I saw her this morning. She's special. She's a beast.
Yeah, she is. And this isn't against any of the other trainers, because they all flourish in their own way. But Chrissy, her and I spent so much time together, so I know her so well.
You mentored her.
Yeah. I mentored her, and when I first told her about becoming a trainer, she kind of looked at me like kind of crazy. Yeah. But I knew she had it in her, and we've worked so hard to have her become the trainer that she is, and she's always willing to learn and always willing to accept feedback no matter how tough it is. And you saw her in her camp this morning. She's a fireball. Mm-hmm. She doesn't stop. And no matter what, she's ready to work. She'll walk in the gym, no voice, no nothing. Something could be. She got into a car accident. Literally crashed her car at 12 o'clock. Was here to train PM camps. she didn't care. This is where she wanted to be.
Right.
And she doesn't let anything become an excuse for her. And that's what I love so much about her. Watching her train people and, you know, having people look up to her because, hey, she's X amount of years old, right? And there's so many people around her that are the same age. And they're like, hey, if she can do it, I can do it. And she pours her heart and soul into every single person that walks through that door.
So you and Chrissy, now I just met one of your new trainers here, Kevin. You guys all now get an opportunity to lead. I mean, there's 800 members between your two gyms that you oversee. Let's go. Here we go. So the results are there to back up the leadership, and that's what we always have to remember, right? Like sometimes as leaders we want to do so well all the time by everybody, and we strive to do that. And sometimes we don't feel like we're making good enough progress toward that. And there's always a scorecard.
Yeah.
There's always the scoreboard, right? You know if you're playing hard enough and practicing hard enough if you look up at the scoreboard and, you know, your team's winning.
Yes.
Right? We can look at the scoreboard here and say there's 800 members, and you've been able to be a huge part of that since day one. And I actually was talking to one of your members named Amy. So Amy comes up after me after camp today, and she goes, "Hey DK, so Pete has me on. He has me in 1 times body weight in protein, 1 times body weight in carbs, and 0.3 times body weight in fat or something like some macronutrient ratio that you gave her."
I don't know if I broke it down that much for her.
I think
she's exaggerating.
She might be breaking it a little bit, but she's doing it religiously, right? And she was like, "So hey, can you help me out with this kind of lineup of food to eat every day?" And I want to get technical for a moment during this trainer talk conversation, and I do want to talk about like Amy's journey, right? Let's just use Amy as an example to talk about protein intake, because you and I both know like the effects of enough and the effects of not enough, right? And it's dramatic, and most people don't really understand what actually happens to your strength, to your body, to the composition, to the way you feel when you're getting a sufficient amount of protein every day. And so we always say as like a starter, right? And I'm just telling you something you already know, but we always say as a starter for those, because nobody gets their protein in, like, let's be honest, like almost no one gets as much as they should. So we need to start at 100 grams. But you have her at body weight times 1 is like 150 grams. And so we started breaking down like what that looks like. And I wanted to ask you about your diet and your nutrition and your routine and how you're feeling yourself, and how that really impacts how you're helping Amy and then on other members. You know, like what is your routine when it comes to that? You obviously have a long background in athletics. You don't become the athlete you became without having food and nutrition as a major part of your regimen, right? So let's talk to that. Let's talk to the people about that. How did you break down Amy when you identified, you know, Amy came to you with a goal? What goal did she come to you with, and how did you identify and break down what her protein is? Take us through that so people at home can hear like how you did it for her, and maybe start to write down a protein game plan for themselves.
Yeah, so I started first. I always have, you know, everybody just track the best they can for like 3 days, because sometimes that fit like the 4th and 5th day is just like they take their time with it, but they forget, you know, and then they forget. So 3 days is usually like a great number of like strong tracking. So I can kind of see a consistency and inconsistency. And with Amy, her protein was nowhere near what it was today. Is today, and she was eating like, you know, 70 grams, 80 grams. I'm like, Amy, like, this is not, and Amy's someone I could give tough love to, right? And this is, again, someone who has believed in me since the beginning, and her journey, she's completely transformed herself. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen a picture or anything.
Tell them a quick story. Tell them her story real quick.
Deconditioned, injury on injury on injury.
Car accident, right? Is that Amy? I met a lot of people this morning. Somebody had told me. Yeah, I think it was Amy. Yeah, it was Amy.
It might have been Amy.
It is. Uh-huh.
There's a lot of car accidents.
Yeah.
But she has gone through, you know, horrible relationships, and somebody that just looked to me as, I need you to help me. And so Amy sits down at our first focus meeting. I said, what do you want? What are your goals? What do you aspire to be? you know, and she's like, well, I want to lose weight, I want to do this, the typical, lose weight, tone up, get strong. It's like, perfect, let's do it. How's your nutrition? Garbage, right? Fast food, eats out, drinks, this, that. So I had her, you know, just kind of track the best she could for like 3 days of what she was taking. I realized that she was, one, not eating enough protein. She really wasn't eating enough carbs, and the fats were way overloaded. And, you know, slowly and progressively, we, you know, increased her protein intake by a couple grams, until she got to that 100 consistently. Then she started to see the weight come off, right? She starts to see the weight come off, starts to see her muscle go up, starts to feel better. And, you know, the big thing I usually push is the protein intake. That, to me, is like above all else, because if you hit your protein intake, most of the time you're hitting about the same amount of carbs-ish, maybe a little bit less. And if it's a lean protein, you're really keeping your fats low, right? High protein, moderate carb, low fat. And Amy then just took it one step further, and one step further, and one step further. And now, yeah, I have her at 150. She probably could eat more than that. I mean, I'm usually say, yeah, with one times like 1.2, 1.3. At one point, I was eating 1.5 grams of, you know, per gram per pound of body weight. And, you know, she's eating 150 right now, and yeah, she's teetering up and down. So, you know, it's probably time for her to start that increase again. Because her body's now just used to using it all the time. But, you know, we really have had so many focus meetings. Her name's like on there like once a week, sometimes 2 times a week. And, you know, her journey has just been, you know, she's changed her nutrition now for the most part completely. She still has, you know, she's like, well, I had a slip up. Like, we're human, right? We're not like, you know, I had ice cream last night. Like, we are human. And, you know, I think it's just moderation, which has helped her the best. Learn to moderate things in her intake and going out and eating versus eating out every night.
Yeah, she walked up to me and she had such admiration for you. And because of that admiration, like, it was almost like a player-coach relationship where, like, the way she was languaging it to me was like, hey, I need to eat this protein because Pete expects me to, and I want my goals too, but, like, also, like, the real reason she's doing it is because Pete is here with her, pouring in the intensity and the effort into those focus meetings and really holding her hand on that journey. And one thing that has been incredibly eye-opening to me over the years is just the difference in strength, which is the prerequisite to really putting your muscle through the stress that it causes it to adapt and grow. When you get the correct amount of protein in, and the strength just goes through the roof. You can just start pushing 10, 15, 20 more pounds on every exercise, generally speaking.
And that's her. You know, she will, like, she'll press like 40, 45 pound dumbbells. When she first started, she was pressing 12 and 15. So the overload of weight has gone up drastically. And, like, she's not, if I tell her to grab the weight, she'll look at me like, are you sure? And I'm like, just grab the weight. Like, trust yourself. Yeah, she was definitely dialed in. So I helped her we did a little post-it, a little sticky note. This might help some people out there. Not many people, what I found, eat elk meat, which is really weird. Elk. It's the best protein on the planet. I heard a Joe Rogan podcast like probably 5 or 6 years ago that he was talking, him and some other bodybuilder or something, or hunter. They're talking about like all the big game, and it was interesting the way that they framed it, because you basically were like, okay, you are what you eat and you are what you eat eats. Okay, so do you want to eat a chicken who eats like seeds and, you know, like poop and like mush and corn and like, or do you want to eat an elk that runs through the forest leaping over trees and it stands 8 foot 9 inches tall and looks like a, you know, it looks like a bodybuilding deer. A deer that's a bodybuilder. And whether you are into you know, animal protein, or for whatever idiosyncratic reason that you don't like animal protein and you are a plant protein person, I think you need it all, because there's phytochemicals in plant protein that don't exist in animals, and there's L-leucine in animal protein that doesn't exist in plants, and so you need them all together. And so for me, it's like, all right, well, how do we get there? And so I helped Amy, and I drew out, so I had her do 8 ounces of elk, a half a cup of brown rice twice a day, an afterburn shake in the morning, 2 scoops, one
1 half cup egg whites in it. I know it sounds gross, but it's not gross. It's
I'm about it.
Very good. It actually creates a smooth, creamy texture that you don't get otherwise. A tablespoon of almond butter, some ice, and some almond milk to liking. And then the last thing was 4 whole eggs and then 3 egg whites. And I don't ever recommend just egg whites because...
Sorry to interrupt.
It's okay.
What was her face when you told her
Well,
that?
she told me that she couldn't, she didn't know how to get 153 grams in. So I broke it down in 3 meals, like just to get 153 grams in. And she's like, well, her phrase was like, elk. Where do I get that? It's like, you have to go hunting.
You hunt it.
And then you got to strap it on your back, and then you got to drag it through the woods. No, it's like, you could probably go to, what do you guys have up here, like Wegmans?
Yeah, Wegmans, or I don't know if Wegmans has it. You probably got to go to like
if it's a major
butcher.
grocer, if you're you don't have to. The Harris Teeter has it in North Carolina. They have access to it. You just have to ask for it.
Okay.
Like I can go into the meat counter at any major grocery store, and I can ask them to order me a case of elk meat every week, and as long as I buy it, they'll order it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have access to all of it. So that's a tip for you.
Good to know.
Yeah, so like a lot of people think that they need to go to like some obscure butcher shop.
Yeah.
Well, I'll use the Harris Teeter example or the Wegmans example for you. The butcher shop there is bigger and more profitable than any butcher shop that you could go to, right? And so like they can source anything from anywhere. Actually, my brother-in-law, John Paul, he lives down in Naples, Florida. He's my guy. He doesn't train all that often, but he's like a religious chicken eater, and his only diet is going to the butcher. I think it's at Publix down there, and he orders like custom made chicken. They pre-bake it for him. They put it in a bag, and he goes and picks it up at like every Monday. So I'm not sure if y'all knew that you can like go out and like make custom orders at your local butcher or grocer.
That's awesome.
You can do it, and so I did that, and then I went, and now they order me at my Harris Teeter. They order me 1 8-ounce pack of elk meat for every day, and I ate 1 8-ounce pack of elk meat for every day. It's been a big deal for me, and so yeah, I just was giving Amy some tips, and I think it came out to like 160, 170 grams of protein. But to my point is, it's not difficult.
Right.
It's not difficult if you know it, right? If you know what to eat. I think 8 ounces is 92 grams of protein and like
it's
a couple grams of fat, if that.
Wild with elk.
Yeah.
My one of the members who was here in the 7 a.m. camp, Katina, her husband Ed, big hunter. I mean, he'd come in with me. He'd bring me a whole Wegmans shopping bag full of elk, venison. I've had wild boar. I've had bison. I've had it all. And to me, that's when I felt the strongest.
Yeah.
Is when I was eating animals. Eating animals that were brick houses.
Right.
Because it turns you into a brick house.
Well, you are what you eat.
Yes.
And so many people don't necessarily realize that, which is why it's bad to, in my professional opinion, why it's bad for the human body to eat dairy or drink dairy milk that has been treated with MSG or antibiotics or hormones, is because all of those chemicals that are medicinal for the breeding of that animal actually is ingested by the human body. Right? And people talk about pesticides all the time as a problem, right? So we obviously know that whatever our food comes with and however we ingest it, that's a problem. And the great thing about bison, elk, any big game that's not regulated, it's highly regulated actually, and to the point to where it cannot be farmed.
Right.
Or there's in some states like sustainable practices around farming, but I don't know a single state that farms elk.
So there's
maybe there is one, and I'm just
there's a reserve. I don't know if it's in New York or it's just over across the border in Pennsylvania. So they raise it like it's not in captivity. It's in like it's just on a reserve, right? And then you go and they live freely and they they replicate freely and they whatever it is, but they're just on a reserve of land. Then you pay to go hunt that.
Right.
And it's just like
there's
more
not
of like a contain. Right.
There's an assembly line of like a mass-produced factory where things are happening.
No, right. It's just on a reserve.
Yeah, and I
you
think
go,
that's
you pay
where
your $6,000 to go find the elk.
Yeah.
You find the elk. You take 400 pounds home.
Yeah.
And you got a meal every day for the next 2 years.
And very high protein. So follow up with Amy on that and see if you guys could get a hold of.
We'll go hunting together.
Yeah. Go up to the reserve and make Amy pull it out. You got to work for your food, Amy. But I also every day we'll take our plant protein powder, which the main the main ingredient in the protein complex. My favorite out of it is the alfalfa, because it's a superfood and it's high in phytochemicals. And for me, I have to have both. And then I'll eat eggs on a daily basis. And so these were some of the things that I was telling Amy. Do you have any other just like practical protein tips on how to get it in? I mean, some people are gonna bark at my half a cup or fourth a cup of egg whites in their shake. Some people just won't try it, but don't knock it till you try it, okay?
I used to freeze egg whites and then use them as ice cubes. And yeah, I used to buy I go to BJ's, I buy a pack of cartons of egg whites, and I would put them in my ice cube tray and freeze them, and I would use them as ice cubes I would use it in like my smoothies instead of just pouring. So that way it gives it the ice feeling instead of ice cubes. I used egg whites.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
Or I used to just...
I thought you were about to say you were going to put it in your water.
Oh, no.
There's like egg whites in your water, bro. You kind of lost me there.
No,
Okay.
I use
in your smoothie.
as the ice cubes.
Wow, okay.
And then
I'm gonna try that.
Also just drink it from the container.
Just straight up? Rocky Balboa style?
Yeah.
Pete DiLorenzo style? Just bottoms up?
I got to start doing that again.
Yeah.
I missed that. But no, I think really when you break it down, though, it's determination. And how bad do you want it?
Mm-hmm.
If you want it bad enough, you're going to make it happen. Mm-hmm. People could say they want it bad enough. But at the end of the day, if you're not actually going out and putting the work in to make sure you're eating correctly or working out correctly or lifting heavy enough, or, everyone's got stuff going on in their own lives. But when you're here for this 45 minutes, how can you make this the best 45 minutes of your day? When you're out of here, how are you going to make that 45 minutes you just did benefit you furthering along your lifestyle, your journey? I think, there's just a simple question is like, how bad do you want it? Mm-hmm. That was something that was, installed into my head like when I was a kid. Like my coach, how bad do you want it? Do you want it bad enough where you're at the soccer field an hour before practice, running, working on your craft? Do you want it bad enough staying an hour after? You think of like, there's what's it called? I can't remember one of the soccer players. One of the younger soccer players was like, I want to make sure I'm at the field first before, this is talking professional, Cristiano Ronaldo. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I showed up at 6 a.m. to train. Ronaldo was there. It's 5 a.m. to train. How do you beat the best? You can only you have to try to be the best in order to be the best. Mm-hmm. And I think, everyone just has to kind of come together and lift each other up, and, building the support systems around you are going to make you want to become that better person. And it's going to allow you to go ahead and, get to, your, whatever you think your potential is, build the relationships. And, sometimes relationships fail, and that's okay. But how do you pick yourself up after that failed relationship, and how do you allow yourself to, progress from there? And what did you learn? But yeah, how bad do you want it is something that's always sticking in my head.
That's a good place to stop right there, Pete. That's a good quote to leave everybody with, is how bad do you really want it? And I think everybody can talk it. Who walks it is who will win. And so, buddy, I appreciate you, man.
Thank you,
Deb. This has been so good.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like a little brother to me. How old are you now?
I'm
35, bro. I'm getting old, man. What's up with this?
28.
Oh my God, 7 years. I got 7 years. Well, it's 7
years.
You
met me at 24.
7 years of wisdom that I can hopefully help you continue to impart. You've shared a lot with us today. We appreciate you. Anything else that you want to say to the people? There's a camera right there.
Oh man.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
You breathe some life into those people, okay? Pete,
okay.
Do it.
All right, ready? Here we go. This is watched by everybody, right?
Yep.
Oh man. All right, so this is my 30 seconds of fame. Here we go. Listen, whatever you feel like that you're going through, that is your worst. Don't think that your worst is worse than anybody else's. It's the importance of coming together as one, as a community, loving your neighbors, whether, no matter what belief systems you have or whatever it may be, just be the most genuine person you can be. The world, your family, your friends, it needs it the most. And just be you. Be your genuine self. Don't pretend to be somebody you're not, because people know who the fake and who the real are. And just allow yourself to just love everybody and, just keep working and grinding, because your goals are just a arm's length away, and anything can become possible, because impossible is nothing.
2 claps on 2, 1, 2. Thank you guys. Make sure you're subscribing to the podcast and to YouTube. Follow me around. Keep moving with the Klines on our vlog. Also the Burn Bootcamp podcast, to where I will be having more conversations with amazing individuals just like my man Pete here. Pete, thank you very much.
Sponsored by Ignite. We needed this one big time
Let's
today.
go. And if you guys are ever in the upstate New York area, stop into Rochester, see this guy at Webster or his other location in Pittsburgh.